can't hear this beat that's playing right now if you're on the live stream. The radio hears it. So I'm going to drop a little tidbit for the radio audience right now. LL Cool J doing it. Classic hip hop record, doing it well. But did you know this record was actually created for the Notorious B.I.G.? That's why you hear that refrain in the back going, "Go Brooklyn, go Brooklyn." Why would LL Cool J, who's from Queens, be on a record that talks about "Go Brooklyn, go Brooklyn"? It's because the beat was originally made for the Notorious B.I.G. Somehow Diddy got into some sort of war with Def Jam. Def Jam took it, and it's a sample of an old Grace Jones song called, I think it's "My Jamaican Guy." And there is the story behind the LL Cool J doing it beat. You are all collectively welcome.
I need to take notes.
Is this going to be on the test?
It'll be on the podcast that you don't believe that we're actually creating.
Oh, yeah, no, I can't wait to subscribe.
The new podcast drops August 11th, Corners of the Culture. Trailer will be out in about 2 weeks.
Corners of the Culture is so much better than Culture Corner.
Significantly.
Like miles better. Great work. Thank you.
Well, that was the name I presented to you.
You said Culture Corner.
No, Kenny Caraway said Culture Corner. I hated that, and
That's brutal.
I hated it, and I just was like, all right, Kenny, like, it's cool. And the whole idea was I heard Michael Eric Dyson use a line about Jay-Z always having the corners of the culture on lock. And I heard it. I was like, that's the name of the podcast. Corners of the Culture. And I don't know why Kenny does this. He was like, yeah, it's the Culture Corner. Like, Nick, no, it's not. It's very much not. And then I kind of like let it go. And then I had our graphic designer, the dope ones, create a graphic. He was like, yeah, the Culture Corner isn't it. He created one that says Corners of the Culture. And
Culture Corner sounds like a weird after school special.
Sounds like Culture Club, like what we're seeing in the chatty house.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good. It didn't work. And Kenny doesn't think about this stuff because he's not the one who has to say it. Like, I'm the one who has to say, "Yo, welcome to the latest edition of the Culture Corner." No, man. Like, no. Oh, thankfully, we abandoned that. And that's not a thing. We welcome in Kyle Madson here, curator of vibes over at 95.7 The Game. In San Francisco, and your work obviously really about to ramp up here. You work with NinersWire.com and Candlestick Chronicles. Let's start here. What was the reason, or what do you think was the reason behind Schefter's tweet the other day about Jimmy Garoppolo and seeking a trade when, by all accounts, that news was 4 months old?
Because I think the Niners wanted to make sure it was very clear that that's what's going on. And the 49ers went to Schefter and said, hey, get this out there. He's cleared to practice. We gave him permission to seek a trade. And he also said they're going to exercise caution with him, which means like he's not practicing for them.
Right.
So I think they wanted to get out in front of any messaging in case this is my theory, in case they have to release him because there's no trade market. They want it to be abundantly clear from Adam Schefter, not from John Lynch at a press conference in March that not that many people saw or remember. They wanted Adam Schefter to tweet out, hey, he has permission to seek a trade. He is going to go out and try and find it. And when it's not there and the Niners cut him, they can go, look, we gave him permission. We tried, but it's best for both parties if we just part ways. That's why I think they went to Schefter to make sure he got that out there.
That's where we're heading, though, right? I mean, this is just going to end the way, he's just going to get waived at the end of the day. I mean, it's hard to see a trade that makes sense for anyone because it's too complicated. Not only do you have to work a trade, but you also have to work an extension or some sort of salary reduction converted into something else. I mean, like, it's pretty complicated.
Yeah, right. You're reducing his number, so you have to come to agreement on that. And then you have to come to an agreement with the 49ers on like what they're trading him for. And if you're the 49ers, like, I don't know if you're willing to eat some of that money. Like if Garoppolo says, I'm not playing for less than 20, which, I mean, he could do, I guess, theoretically. Says, I'm not playing for less than 20, and the team says, great, we'll give you 10. If the Niners eat 10, then the Niners are paying $10 million for Baker Mayfield got a future 2024 fifth-round pick. So not even next year's draft. It's the following year. So I'm guessing Garoppolo is probably in that same range. And I don't know if the Niners are going to want to pay money potentially to get a mid to late round pick 2 years from now. So I think unless Seattle gets into camp and watches Drew Lock and Geno Smith, which is very possible, and they go, yeah, like we're not competing this year, but this is really bad. Or if a player gets hurt, then the trade market ramps up. But the Browns seem to be out of it, and I think it's going to take another team either suffering an injury at the position or being really dissatisfied with their quarterback situation to even begin talks on Garoppolo. So yeah, I think this is all going to come to a head with the Niners not being able to trade him, but Garoppolo also wanting out because he wants to try and sign somewhere to catch on early enough that he can at least compete for a starting job or be in the mix. And the Niners aren't going to probably want to deal with this going into camp. Like they're not going to want to answer questions about it. They don't want players answering questions about it. So that's my guess. If that trade market doesn't ramp up here in the next couple of weeks, they'll just grant him his release once he's cleared, and they'll call it good.
But like realistically, that's just Seattle, right? That's no one else.
So, yeah, Seattle. I guess I haven't seen it substantially reported that the Falcons called, but you could see that they have Desmond Ridder, a draft pick from Cincinnati. He's in his first year. They have Marcus Mariota, who's fine, but if Atlanta again is like, hey, we want to compete this year and we think Jimmy Garoppolo can do it, and Jimmy Garoppolo, Arthur Smith, their head coach, got a ton of production out of Ryan Tannehill with a play action heavy offense. Jimmy Garoppolo is really effective at that. Maybe he just likes Jimmy and maybe likes him for the future. I saw Detroit brought up as well, which doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Unless Detroit looks at the roster and goes, hey, like we might be able to compete a little bit this year, but not with Jared Goff. We think we can with Jimmy Garoppolo. Then maybe they get in the mix. But this is all like hypotheticals. There's not a team that it's like, oh yeah, that's the team. Like that, they're for sure as soon as he's healthy going to trade for him.
We're getting dangerously close to me feeling bad for Jared Goff. Like this has really just gotten. He's
winning it. He's won.
It doesn't feel like people love him.
Well, yeah, he's just not very good at playing quarterback. But he's doing fine for himself, and he's gonna be an employee of the NFL. He's gonna get at least backup jobs through like 2030. He's fine.
Okay, I don't disagree. He gets dumped on a lot.
He earns it.
Like you literally traded him and won the Super Bowl. Like that's tough. Like he has to live with that for the rest of his life. His team got rid of him and they won. Like you are the problem. If we get rid of you, we'll win. They trade him and they win. Like that's brutal.
And then every time you turn on the TV, that AT&T commercial with Matthew Stafford is
on.
It's
so good. Every time I sit there and laugh. Every time.
Yeah. Brutal way to go about life for sure. But I don't feel bad for the guy. He's super rich. He's doing fine in his personal life. Shout out to him.
That's true. All right. Why are there so many mixed messages regarding Trey Lance? It feels like there are these weird reports about arm fatigue and accuracy and all of these different things. And then guys like Fred Warner, go on the Rich Eisen show or George Kittle talks or Trent Williams, and everyone just has wonderful things. All of his players have wonderful things to say about him.
Yeah, I think part of that is just a matter of the 24-hour news cycle. Chris Biederman, my co-host on Candlestick Chronicles, and I theorized that a lot of the arm fatigue stuff and the worries stuff was coming from Rich Scangarello, the Niners' former quarterbacks coach, who they let go so he could be the offensive coordinator at Kentucky, big football school. I think he was apparently not a big Trey Lance guy, so it wouldn't surprise me if he's the one out there talking about this. But yeah, accuracy is definitely an issue for Lance, and something that when you say issue, it's like, hey, he has to prove that this isn't going to be a long-term problem. And I think that's fair. Like that's a super fair criticism. He was not super accurate last year when he was in the game. He has to work on his intermediate and short throws and just the touch on those throws and delivering them to the right spots. Like for all of Jimmy Garoppolo's flaws, that's something he was really good at. When that throw was there over the middle, he was going to put it on his receiver in a position where they could go make a play after the catch. So those are all things he has to prove for sure. I think the arm fitness thing, I'm not concerned about it at all. But the accuracy stuff, like for sure. I mean, Steve Young, who's done a ton of work with Trey Lance and is acting as something of a mentor to Lance, kind of said like the processing's there, the arm strength is there, like the physical tools are there. Now, can you get the ball to the right spot where it needs to go at the time it needs to get there? And that's something that we won't know until we see, 8, 10, 12, 14 games out of them.
When you look at the rest of the Niners roster, are they just in a holding pattern with the Garoppolo thing when it comes to guys like Deebo and, his extension? Like, where are they going to go here? Because it feels like everyone else has kind of got paid, and Deebo's still standing there like, when's my money coming?
So it's Deebo and Nick Bosa still need to get paid. It depends a little bit on how the Niners want to structure those deals. My guess is that any extension they sign, it's going to be their rookie contract, and then the extension kicks in next year. So Garoppolo's money wouldn't affect that at all. Now, if they want to, I don't know the exact machinations of how they would front load those deals and use some of Garoppolo's money, but I don't think that what?
Good word.
Thank
machinations.
You. Thank you. I don't think that's what's the holdup with Deebo. I think Deebo is a little bit the holdup with Deebo. And this is just the time, this is about the time they start getting deals done. So it wouldn't surprise me if negotiations didn't start until fairly recently with both Bosa and Samuel, because this is just kind of what the Niners front office does. And the hope is that both guys will be on the field for training camp with new deals, and those storylines will be over, but we'll see.
But with Bosa, there's no question something is getting done, and there's no question that something monstrous is getting done, right?
Well, unless the Niners are giving him some number that he's not super happy with, and he says, great, I'll just play out the final year of my rookie deal, and then the cap will spike, and then I'll go get 15 sacks. Like, bet on himself, basically. I'll go get 15 sacks this year, and then you can pay me highest defensive player in the league money next offseason. Or he can get his 29 or 30 or 31 million or whatever it is, something south of Aaron Donald, I think, this year, and be good with that. That's my guess, but it's not like a locked, like chisel it in stone, he'll sign an extension. I'm guessing he will. I'm fairly certain he will, but it's also an option for him not to.
Do you think, are you confident Deebo is there day one next week?
Define there, like helmet on practicing?
Yes.
Like 50-50 right now. Like helmet on practicing. I think we're going to see a hold in from Samuel, where he's there, he's in attendance, but he's not practicing, he's not participating, and putting himself at injury risk while he works out a deal. Because that doesn't look great for him if he demands a trade, goes to mini camp, is in the Bay Area a week before camp, and then just doesn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something he wants to avoid. And I don't think he doesn't. I think he wants to play for the 49ers. But I don't think I wouldn't be surprised if we see that hold in where he's there until he gets a new deal.
Have the Niners done enough? I mean, their interior line took some hits. Have they been active enough? Have they done enough to put themselves in a situation where they can compete to get back to, get to the NFC Championship game or go further, or even, really be a strong playoff team?
That's the single biggest offseason question. Like Lance is he is what he is, right? We know that as he goes, the Niners are going to go offensively, but that offensive line question that you just asked is the biggest question there is. Like, what is that going to look like up front? So Aaron Banks is supposed to be their starting left guard. Lock in, baby. Offensive line talk. Aaron Banks is supposed to be their offensive guard, or their left guard. Center is a guy named Jake Brendel, and who had very minimal experience. Aaron Banks, second-year player, didn't play at all last year. We played minimal last year. And then the right guard's Daniel Brunskill, who's fine. He's a league average right guard. They could upgrade at all three of those positions, but to answer your question, they didn't do enough to upgrade those spots. So it's a massive question mark at all 3 interior line spots. And if they don't figure it out, like they have a lot of bodies they can throw at it, but if those bodies don't add up to, hey, this is a starting quality interior offensive line, that's a problem for a first-time starting quarterback. So I think that is the biggest question going into camp is what does their offensive line look like? If they have problems there, how do they fix it? And do they just have the bodies in the building if Aaron Banks just isn't good at football? Like, let's go down that road. Aaron Banks just comes out and they're like, hey, this guy's just not an NFL caliber player. Who plugs in there? Mm-hmm. That I don't know. It's a bunch of 5th, 6th round picks and some undrafted guys. And that's fine, but there's a lack of certainty that I think you're concerned about if you're the 49ers.
So I hope this question makes sense. It does in my head. It might not in execution. You say it's the biggest question for the team, this offensive line. Like, is it the biggest problem, or is it only the biggest potential problem? Like, is there somewhere that you look on this roster on either side of the ball and go, the offensive line is a question, but this is a problem?
No, offensive line's both.
Oh, good.
It is a problem. Because they have a starting right tackle, Mike McGlinchey, but we have no idea how he's good. Like, look, okay, Mike McGlinchey has gotten super underrated. Like, he's a good football player, but he tore his quad last year. He played 8 games, and now he's trying to come back from that. He's never been a great pass blocker. He's been average at best, but he's a really good run blocker. How does he come back off of that? Like, there are questions, and it's the fact that there aren't like specific answers to those questions. For example, strong safety is a question for the 49ers, but it's Tavarius Moore and Talanoa Hufanga. I think they're both really talented players. It's like, who's going to start there? I don't know, but whoever it is going to be fine. With the offensive line, it's like, who's going to start there? I don't know, but whoever it is might not be very good at football. And that's where
that's not good.
It's a question and a problem.
So you should know how to play football. That's my takeaway from this conversation. Go ahead, James.
Yeah,
good football players.
Is there a way still to address that? I mean, clearly you can go out and make some trades, but that usually happens a little bit closer to the season when teams are, getting done with camp and looking at young players that are coming up and thinking, okay, we could probably save some dollars here and trade away to a vet. But do you think that they start to address that, or you just roll the dice and go into the season like this?
So there's, I mean, maybe, but I don't know how many teams are going to be willing to trade like starting caliber offensive linemen at this point, just because there's injuries at that position, and there's just not that many really good offensive linemen in the league. Like Laken Tomlinson was a good player for the 49ers and an above average left guard, and he got cashed out in free agency. Like, really good, reliable offensive linemen are at a premium for sure. So I don't know if teams are going to be willing to trade those guys, but yeah, it's definitely an option. The Niners have a glut of good defensive ends. Maybe there's a team that has a couple of backup interior linemen that the Niners like, and they can make a swap. But I think for now, like what they're going into camp with, I think they're pretty set with letting those guys compete. And we'll see come mid to late August if that works out.
I feel like Kyle Shanahan loves this stuff, though. Like a
like
team,
just problem solving.
It's just like I'm not going to solve the problem with the best offensive line in the best offensive lineman in football. I'm just going to combine a bunch of random pieces that you don't know are going to make a dope offensive line. I feel like that's what Kyle Shanahan wants.
It's kind of the Bill Belichick thing too, right? Like people theorize that Belichick loved when Brady was out because it was like, yeah, I'll win with Jimmy Garoppolo. Oh, Jimmy Garoppolo's out. Great. I'll win with Jacoby Brissett. This is great. Problems. Let's solve them. I think there's a little bit of that with Kyle Shanahan for sure. But I also think if you're Kyle Shanahan, like you just want to win a Super Bowl. You just want to have the best players available. And if he's at the point where he's like, yeah, we don't need to spend early draft picks on the offensive line because I will figure it out. It's like, all right, man, good for you, but that's risky. Especially when your whole future rides on Trey Lance.
Yes.
Protecting him as a
when
priority.
Everything centers on the quarterback that you moved up to the number 3 spot to draft. Cool.
Yeah. He can run.
Man.
That's fine. He's mobile.
Scramble. That's our plan. You got to move.
Kyler Murray got paid. He can run. I mean, I guess it's
dude. The Kyler Murray contract's wild to me. I compared Kyler Murray is Bradley Beal. Like, you have to pay him.
Okay, waited. Okay.
What?
No, okay. I'll let you finish that. I was gonna say, wait a minute. Bradley Beal is really good.
So's Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray is.
But are you ever? Is there a team you're constructing with Bradley Beal as the number one guy where you're like, hell yeah, that's a championship team? No.
Well, you're not constructing the Washington Wizards that way. That's for sure.
Yeah. And
That's
I don't think the Arizona.
Yeah, I like your take. This is interesting.
Thanks. James likes my take.
No, I do. I do because I mean, can Kyler Murray? I mean, where is he at in as far as the upper echelon of NFL quarterbacks? And he just got paid what he's the second highest paid, quarterback in the league. And then you look at Bradley Beal, and you're like, okay, like I don't see. Have you seen like a bunch of guys say, hey, let's get Bradley Beal together to be our third in a super team? We'll do the Super Friends team with Brad Bill. I haven't seen that yet.
Steph and Draymond tried it last offseason. but to that point, like, you have to pay Bradley Beal. You have to.
Yeah.
Because he's too good to let walk.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not gonna take a pay cut. Like, you have to pay him the max. And I think Kyler Murray is in that same boat. Like, you can't let him walk. Are you going to win a Super Bowl with him? I personally don't think so. Maybe I'll be proven wrong, but are you going to win a Super Bowl with him? I don't think so. But also, you can't let him walk because you hired and then extended Cliff Kingsbury, and Cliff got rid of the number 10 overall pick from the year before, drafted his own guy number 1 overall. He had the number 1 pick in the draft and handpicked Kyler Murray. They extended Cliff Kingsbury this offseason because he has his quarterback. So they extended Kyler Murray through that same length of time. Those two guys are tied together. Like, they're committed to it, and they had to be, because you can't extend the coach and then be like, yeah, pick a different quarterback, not number 1 overall. We trust you to do that. So they were kind of handcuffed, and I think they've tied themselves to a quarterback who is going to maybe get them to the playoffs, but I don't think they're going very far with him.
So why doesn't Lamar have a contract yet?
I have no idea. I genuinely have no idea. They've built a really good offense around him, and maybe it's his lack of playoff success, and maybe that's their hang up, and whether they want to commit the dollars to that, because it's a hard cap. So I don't know if they don't want to commit the dollars to that because they feel they need to improve other areas. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm guessing something gets done because Baltimore can't. There'd be riots if they let him walk.
Speaking of quarterbacks, I absolutely, given training camp starting for almost everyone in just a matter of days, or it does start for everyone in a matter of days, I absolutely thought the Deshaun Watson news was going to break today. I thought they were going to release, yeah, Deshaun's been suspended 3 games. Bye, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Well, Friday news dump.
Yeah. Have a good weekend, everybody. Deshaun
Bye, everyone.
The day isn't over. The day isn't over.
I'm looking at the clock. It's like it's 5:56 Eastern. Like, is it too late? Like, would they really drop it later than this?
Is Cleveland Central Time?
Oh, are they? I don't know. I figured it was just coming from New York.
Although maybe we'll get that like Schefter report at like 9 p.m. tonight. We'll get that weird super late Schefter tweet. Source: Deshaun Watson to be suspended X Games.
If it was the Kings, they would wait for a holiday. It'd be like, is it Father's Day? Let's drop it now. Oh, it's Mother's Day.
Ruin someone's day.
It's Mother's Day at 4:00 on a Sunday. Let's hire a new head coach.
We literally went into the weekend. The Kings are going to ruin Mother's Day. That's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to ruin Mother's Day and announce their head coach. And
yes, they did.
That's brutal. That's what they did. That's absolutely what they did. Kyle Madson, really looking forward to ramping up our 49ers coverage here as training camp gets underway next week. Candlestick Chronicles, NinersWire.com, 95.7 The Game.